Welcome once again here on the Regional Radio Sports Network. My name is Paul County, president, founder of Regional Radio Sports. Once again, glad that you've stopped along with us here today. It's Bethel University Women's Volleyball Media Day today. Glad that you can join us here today. Erica Dregits, the second-year head coach of the Pilots, is going to be spending some time with us here. We're glad you've stopped along. Erica, first of all, 1 year in the books. I remember having some conversations early on with you last year. Mm-hmm. I know some of these conversations were kind of awkward because you really weren't sure what was going on. Mm-hmm. But I feel that you're a lot more comfortable in your skin after watching you coach, mm-hmm. being around your players. Things are a lot different. So what's different this time around going into camp and getting ready for this mm-hmm. season?
I think just the relationships that I've built with these players. I really believe that relationships are paramount to what's going to happen on the court, and just had more time with these girls, understand what makes them tick, what frustrates them, what motivates them, and that's just really important. Knowing that I care for them makes them motivated to work harder for me, and so I think that's definitely something that's come in the last year.
One thing that happened for me when I remember my first year coaching, and I remember that I always felt like I was a really good practice coach, and my gamesmanship during the course of the game was okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just, taking some, self-analytics back in those days. But as I grew in my craft, if you will, I felt that I became better and better at it each and every time. You think right now that you're still a great practice coach and you're improving in your gamesmanship, or you think it's the other way around, or maybe a combination of both?
Mm-hmm. I love practice. I love seeing the growth. I love pushing them hard. I love seeing them work together as a team. And I think I agree with that statement, constantly growing in that game day, pre-game talk, getting them motivated, what to say when they're frustrated, when we're down, keeping that composure so that they can have confidence that on the court as well. So, it is constantly just growing, but practice is where the magic happens. That's how we finish games, is we've done it in practice. So
one thing that's pretty evident to me, because I had a chance to watch you play when you played here, that at that point in time it was Bethel College. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Bethel University women's volleyball record book, your name is probably in there more than any other athlete in the history of the volleyball program, and you played for a great coach in Julie Raniga, and so you've had a chance to have a lot of success in National Player of the Year. We can go on and on. We could literally take 35 minutes and go through the record book, but we're not going to do that. But having said that, a lot of times coaches who are tremendous athletes sometimes have a little bit of a transitional phase from, you should know this because I know this. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you have to take a step back and say, well, maybe they don't know what I know. So talk to me about being a prolific player and transitioning that into being a prolific coach.
Mm-hmm. I think volleyball for me was my second sport. And so growing up, had great coaches that taught me the game so that I could understand it. Sure. And so I just try to emulate what my coaches did when I was a player. Patience and teaching, never assuming they know what I know, but kind of breaking it down for them. There is a learning curve because when you go from player to coach, your competitiveness doesn't turn off. You're still competitive, but it's now trying to motivate other people to be competitive as well and set them up for success. Give them ideas, tips, strategies where they need to be going to be successful on the court. So it's been a good transition. I feel like also my teaching background has been helpful as well. Just learning how people function, and if I say something they're not going to understand it, I've got to say it more than once. I've got to have them talk about it. Things like that I can bring onto the volleyball court definitely have been helpful. But one of our core values is grow, and I tell my players all the time, like, I expect them to grow, but I expect myself to grow too. And so learning just new ways to teach things. I didn't swing block when I was a player, and now teaching swing blocking, it's something that I've had to grow in. The game is constantly changing, and I feel like I have to be changing with the game as well.
Well, let's stay with the theme grow. Mm-hmm. In what areas do you think that you've grown the most in just the last calendar year of being a coach? And one interesting component that you didn't have to worry about when you were a great player is recruiting, because that is part of the equations. Got to have relationships out there in the club scene, as well as all the other, maybe some junior colleges, as well as high school stuff. So talk about how you've grown in that regard from last year to this year.
So last year, I feel like, I was just kind of thrown in middle
Yes, you
December, not a typical time when a coach gets hired. However, just kind of this year in recruiting, I feel like I've definitely grown in my recruiting. The first year, it was kind of like, you are interested in Bethel, you know how to play volleyball, let's go.
Okay.
And now just being able to establish those relationships and build a relationship. I feel like I know my freshmen coming in a lot better than I did my first year, which then I can recruit higher quality player. I can be a little bit more selective in who is going to be part of our program. I also think, I'm by trade a very indecisive person, but being a coach and a leader, it's like you've got to make those split decisions. And, if everyone is happy, I'm doing my job wrong. So it's like I've got to balance, what's best for the team. And my biggest thing is no decision is a bad decision. So just got to make a decision, stick behind it, and go with it.
The other aspect that you've had to do, which is new for you, in the last year, obviously, husband, kids. Husband, very successful business. Got to try to do all those particular things. That wasn't part of the game plan 2 years ago or so. So let's talk about the area that you've grown in managing your family, helping your family, you're being a mom, all those particulars.
So the plan was for me to stay at home, stop teaching, stay at home, be a stay-at-home mom, but the Lord had different plans for that. So I think just adapting and being flexible and following God's lead. So my kids are at the gym with me all the time.
There you go.
Harper's here for media day, getting her pictures taken as well. She got to go on our missions trip with us to Jamaica. My husband got to come with us as well. So it's kind of just inviting them into this team. Steve is a father figure for a lot of the girls while they're away at school. And, my family, I just like to include all of them in, invite them for family dinners. And, I'm kind of a package deal. So if you want to play at Bethel, you've got to be part of my family.
Exactly. And there's no place better to do that. Okay. Last season, 21 wins, 18 losses, 8-10. And a very competitive Crossroads League. You guys were 11-5 at home, 2-9 on the road, 9-4 in scenarios where you're playing on a neutral court. So numbers were pretty good as a first-year head coach. You had to replace some pretty good, talented players. And one of them, in Maddie Payne, All-American, two-time All-American. Michaela Whitaker, Rana Brown, Paige Hickey. So you look at these four gals that were prominent players, and the reason I bring that up, Maddie was in a situation where she played in 145 sets. Whitaker at 107, Brown at 135, and Page at 146. So they're got a lot of minutes, got a lot of playing time. So let's start right there, having to replace those kids who have certainly and I don't know if you could ever replace a player as good as Maddie Payne is.
Definitely. I knew going in to my first year, it was a blessing having Maddie on my team, the leadership, just everything she brought to the court with her skill, but also replacing her I knew was going to be a very big feat. She'll never be replaced, but we didn't get a prominent middle in this year as I was hoping to, had prospects. So really going hard in the 2026 class. We already have a great middle signed for 2026. So for this year, possibly thinking of, we brought in Addie Byram, who has middle experience. We have Anna Richer, who was on the bench last year, also a middle. Delaney Kintz has been adapting to the game well and able to step in the middle. But what really surprised us, Taylor Delp is so versatile, quick arm swing strong, possibly toying with the idea of putting her in the middle, and could be a good thing for our team.
You know, you've got a lot of talented kids coming back. Make no mistake about it. You mentioned Ainsley Tacky, Taylor Depp, Paige Francis back, Grayson Norris, Haley Biedenbach, 936 assists last year, team leader in that. Paige, 557 assists. So you look at those two particular numbers. So you got a great core to start. So I would think that the optimism is really high in the camp.
It is. If you look at our junior class, we have about 9 on our roster, which is a core group who have played together for the last 2 years, and so they're a solid group. So that's really exciting as a coach, having so many players that have game experience and coming back into this year, because the game is just faster, different, stronger at the college level. So as a coach, I'm really optimistic about this year and what our returners are going to provide for our team.
There's always a fine line when you think about it, and when you got to put in those newcomers. Eric, I think that's the hardest thing, is you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put you in a pivotal role and against a great team, and there's a lot of great teams on your schedule, and I'm going to see how this person is going to react under the fire of true competition. You got the national champion in your league that you got to have to deal with, as well as some other really talented teams. So let's talk about knowing when and how to insert those youngsters into those pivotal roles. I think that's one of the hardest things to do as a coach, to say, okay, baptism by fire, right?
Yeah. And, there's 2 philosophies, like let them grow in practice and then wait for their turn, or just send them in there. So I think I'm growing in that philosophy as well. Our conference is so competitive. So, that's the trick as a coach. But I think that our newcomers, the level that they bring to our play is very similar to a lot of the girls on our team. And so I think you'll see a lot more of those newcomers playing more of a pivotal role this year than in my first year coaching.
I went back and did some homework on some of the numbers. Obviously, Sophie Beeson played at Wapahani, Delaware County's produced a lot of great volleyball players over the year. Byram, a kid from Lanesville down south. Up and down the line, when you look at the kids that you brought in, is there 1 or 2 kids that are above the group? Or is it based upon position specific? I need someone here to fill this specific role. Give us an idea where you're at in that regard.
With the idea of moving Taylor to the middle, that frees up something on the outside. I think that Sophia and Ari Searle are, fighting, and 2 different types of players.
Sure.
You've got Sophia Beeson with a strong arm swing that has gotten her kills through power, and then you have Ariana, who has gotten her kills through finesse, power, and shots. And so, it's just 2 different types of player. But the one that I was not looking for was a libero, or a defensive specialist. And who's really surprised me is Jessica Hand. She's a transfer from LMC, and connected with her coach and just was like, you need to take a look at her. And I'm like, we have a DS heavy roster. We don't need another one. But the first time I saw her play, her speed and quickness, we struggled last year defending the middle of the court on tips, roll shots, anything. And her speed to get to that ball and play a playable ball is just something that excites me, because we're going to be able to get to a lot more because of her defensive efforts.
Yeah, I noticed you brought in a couple of junior college kids, and that's something new. I know that there's been other schools locally that have tapped into that resource, and very successfully, I might add. Give us an idea as you look into that fill in that gap when you may need that. Is that something that you'll take a look at in the future?
Definitely. I think adjusting to the speed of the game from high school to college always is a learning curve. But if they've already adjusted, bringing those community college kids in, that's a great resource, especially Abby Marquis in the middle. She has middle experience. She's had a year of college playing. And so, we had that middle gap, and taking a look at transfer from a community college is a great resource that I think needs to be tapped into more.
Speaking of great resources, I think maybe the biggest off-season move was to pick up my broadcast partner, and who I had a chance to watch grow up, Maddie Beaver-Kern, a tremendous athlete here, one of the greatest ambassadors for the game that I've ever been in my time here, which just seems like that it's going year on and year out. She has got a great heart, great soul, terrific sportscaster. And let's talk about bringing on Maddie Kern as your assistant coach. That's a bold move to hire a full-time assistant coach because, number one, they have to be an extension of you, but they also have to be able to be strong enough to say, hey, listen, coach, I disagree. Here's the reason why. And you've got to be tough-skinned enough to be able to say, okay, I see what you're saying. However, I want to be able to, this is the decision I've made, and she has to likewise have to be able to say, okay, you're the head coach, I get it, but I just wanted you to know my opinion. So there's a unique dynamic in between number one assistant and a head coach, and you've been in that role, so talk about that.
Yeah, I think last year we knew Lisa was probably only going to stay on for a year to help me with my first year, and that was different because Lisa was my mentor.
Sure.
Mentoring me through that first year. But I knew right away that I wanted Maddie just because of her setter experience, her love for Bethel. She bleeds blue, and just the knowledge that she brings. In working together the past couple months, it's been evident how similar we are in some ways, but I also think that she is strong enough to challenge me, help me think in different ways, and just I played in a different era than she played,
Sure.
And so it's definitely, a great partnership. And I don't want to, yes, it's a head coach, assistant coach, but I want to form a coaching team that we're all working together. We're practice planning together. We're talking about lineups together. It's not just me making the decision. It's a cooperative decision. And I think Maddie, with her knowledge of the game and just in broadcasting, can see a lot of things that maybe I don't see. Her eye for detail on film and scouting is tremendous, and I think that's going to help us a lot. I mean, if you look at our record in the Crossroads League, we struggled winning games away, and so really analyzing film and looking at some of those things, I think she's going to really just contribute in a lot of ways.
All right, it was a real unique summer for you all because you had a chance to go to on a mission trip. So let's talk about the growth, not only for what you saw from yourself, family, as well as your student athletes. I know Maddie and I had talked about her going on that. We were excited to be able to support her in that initiative. So let's talk about your trip and the missions. And I've always felt that when talking with athletes, Erica, that more often than not, our students going wherever it may be, more often than not, their lives are changed more than the people that they're there to serve. What say you?
Yeah, so this was a unique situation because 20 years ago, I went to Jamaica on a missions trip with Theo and Nicole Williams. He's a professor here at Bethel. And when I got hired, I told Theo, I was like, I want to do this with my players. Like, it was so impactful for me. I want them to experience. So we got to go back to Jamaica and a lot of the places where I visited when I was a player. And so we actually stayed at Camp Kendall in Mandeville, which is kind of in the center of the island, and got to be with the same kids for a whole week at camp, just pouring into them, which is different. Oftentimes on mission trip, you go to an orphanage, you go to a place one day and then move on. But we were able to just invest in these kids' lives. But was really unique is, the bonding that took place between my players. You got to see Ariana's heart and the way that she loved on people, which we wouldn't have been able to see just in practice, but she's a freshman coming in, and, it kind of just gives a freshman relationship before entering into preseason. And for me personally, I was able to bring my husband, Steve, and my daughter, Harper. So that was fun to serve alongside of them. And I tell my recruits all the time, like, you just get to see another side of a person when you're serving with them. So it was neat for me. I definitely grew. They're on island time, and so that was a stretch for me. All the details weren't provided, and as a coach, it's like, no, we're on Dregits time. We're 15 minutes early. We're getting, we're preparing for any emergency that comes out, but just able to spend time with the girls, relax, journal, talk about the Lord and what he's doing in our lives. So it was just a really sweet time for, I think, the whole team.
All right, let's break this thing down. I'll give you a couple open-ended questions to wrap things up here. The Bethel Pilots are going to have a great year because this is going to happen. Fill in the blanks.
Bethel Pilots are going to have a great year because we are learning to trust each other, get vulnerable with each other, and put each other before ourselves.
Final question. Playing in the Crossroads League is probably the greatest gift, as well as probably an albatross in many ways. Talk about the importance of bringing your A game, making sure that you're mentally, emotionally, and physically ready, and playing in the best league in the United States.
Yeah, I think, preparing our bodies physically. We've got a mindset coach this year, preparing our minds and, being spiritually ready, knowing that a win or loss, yes, we want to win, but ultimately our identity is in Christ. And so the competition is great. I want to win, but I really want these girls just to use volleyball as a means to glorify God.
There you go. Erica Dregits, women's volleyball coach here at Bethel University. Don't forget, Pilots volleyball all season long right here on Regional Radio Sports. Special again, thanks to Alexis and everyone here at the Sports Information team, along with Tanner Camp. I'm Paul Condry. We'll see you next time right here on the Regional Radio Sports Network.